Hello, I'm Duane and welcome to Learn and Love Music. Do you recognize that song? That is from an opera called Tales of Hoffmann. And it's a wonderful, wonderful opera, and this is the most famous tune from it. It's called Barcarolle. In this episode of Learn and Love Music, we're going to learn what a barcarolle is, and we're also going to look at three beautiful piano pieces that were based on barcarolles and barcarolle rhythms. So, let's get started. In 1830, Felix Mendelssohn was 19 years old and he visited Venice for the first time. Venice is a city of canals and gondolas going along the canals. A beautiful setting. It still is as beautiful now as it was back in 1830. Important part about Venice was the gondoliers who sang the songs while they were pulling these boats through the canals. And Mendelssohn wrote three pieces from his Songs Without Words called Venetian Boat Song. So we're going to look at some of these. Before we get started though, I want to point out something that all of these barcarolles have in common. They are all in 6/8 time, and they kind of emulate the sound of a boat going through the canals. One thing interesting about Felix Mendelssohn's piece, the one we're going to look at, is Opus 62, number 5. And in this one, as I was practicing it, I realized there was something I didn't really know why he put in there. It's a beautiful barcarolle. Every few measures I heard this sound that sounded rather obtrusive. And the beautiful theme. And that sound kept coming back fortissimo, and I was wondering what it meant. In Italian, if you listen to the boats going along, the gondolas going along the canals, they shout out something every time they get to a corner where they might meet another gondola. They make a loud exclamation saying, "Look out! I'm coming." And so he does this several times in this piece. And of course, all of these pieces are in 6/8 time. And another thing interesting about 6/8 time is that you'll feel this energy going from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you really can feel the energy of the rhythm. So let's listen to Venetian Gondola Song number 3 by Felix Mendelssohn. And listen for the 6/8 time signature, and also listen for those warnings as they come to the ends of buildings. was in New York, back in the 1970s and 80s, I studied the Barcarolle by Frédéric Chopin. My teacher, Jeaneane Dowis, had a very specific way to teach rhythm, specifically rhythm in 6/8 time. She believed that students needed to count aloud. So I'm going to show you how we're going to count aloud in 6/8 time. Of course, another Barcarolle, and this one's going to be by Frédéric Chopin. And Chopin did not visit Venice. I checked it out. He knew about Venice, he knew about the boats, he knew about Barcarolles and all of that, but he never got to Venice. So he doesn't have any of those kind of boat calls that Mendelssohn had. But nonetheless, he wrote a beautiful and very evocative, just a fabulous piece, big piece by Chopin standards, about 8 or 9 minutes long. And it's the Barcarolle in F sharp major. In this piece, what Miss Dowis did is she had me count aloud. And she had me count this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I did long 1 into a short 2, and then a 3 that leads into 4, and a long 4 that ends on a short 5, and then leads into 6. So once again, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2. It was funny because she was from Texas, and she had a Texan accent. She'd always go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I didn't quite count like that, but I did learn the importance of instilling the 6/8 rhythm in your body and in your hands and in your brain by doing this kind of counting. So I'm going to demonstrate this counting a little bit with the main theme from the Barcarolle. So listen carefully. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. And I always thought it was kind of silly to do all that counting. But it gave a feeling as if you're on water, and you could feel the waves going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2. And almost as if you could tell when the gondolier would pull his long oar into the water. And it's a great image, oral image, something you can hear. So, enjoy this first section of Chopin's Barcarolle in F sharp major in 6/8 time. As you probably know already, I've become sort of a Glazunov aficionado. I love Glazunov. I've recorded all the works of Glazunov. So I thought I would share a Barcarolle by Glazunov. This is a beautiful piece in D-flat major. Glazunov lived in St. Petersburg, and I find it interesting that I also like geography, and I realized that the geography of St. Petersburg is very similar to the geography of Venice. Lots of canals going through. They probably don't have as quaint of looking gondolas in St. Petersburg, but it is a place where water is really important. Of course, when Glazunov writes his Barcarolle, he's writing it about his home city of St. Petersburg. He uses a lot of the same gestures that Chopin does. He doesn't use the warning sign that Mendelssohn uses, but you'll find a lot of late Romantic richness in this music. I love Glazunov. I think he's one of the greatest late Romantic composers. And you'll find a lot of times in his music, he'll use harmonies that are a little bit more daring than harmonies you might hear in the earlier part of the 19th century, as you heard in Mendelssohn and Chopin. So listen for some of those really interesting harmonies that Glazunov used. This is one of my favorite Glazunov pieces. This is the Barcarolle in D-flat major. Thanks for watching Learn and Love Music this week. Hope you've enjoyed this episode on Barcarolles. And remember, when you play in 6/8 time, you have to feel the water underneath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Any Barcarolle you play, you need to have that sense of rhythm. Hope to see you next time.